Hi everyone! I still owe you one video about the Tictactoe series. Today we will introduce the game logic. This is where we headed off. Our current app has basically 9 fields and we can move the mouse, we have some crosses, we have some circles, and whenever we hover one empty field, we see that the border gets more thick in order to indicate that the player could click here. This is where we are, and now we will build the game logic. At first we need to adapt our starting state of the game. So currently we have as a starting state here the crosses and the circles to show the logic, but right now what we want to do is basically replace all of these and start with an empty field. Additionally, we need to track which player currently is playing. So we need to introduce the player, we need to introduce something called the winner, and we also need to introduce a state which is tracking whether the game is over or not. So let's do that. In the next step, we need to tell the game what is happening as soon as the player is clicking in an empty field. So we already have the logic in place to draw here the more thick rectangle as soon as the player is hovering an empty field. And we can directly place the call here to update our game state. So this is what we will do here. We will update the game state, introduce a new function to do that, and here we go. The first thing that we want to do here is to early exit if the game is either over or if the cell is already filled. So we will check that. Then as a next step, we will check whether the game, or we will update the grid and to see whether the game is now over. And as a last step, we will change the player to the new player. The check for game over is rather simple. So we basically check if in the place where the player has clicked, if the rows are either all the same, the columns are all the same, or the diagonal is the same. So we need to additionally pass here the rows and the columns to the check function, and then we need to implement the check for all of these three possibilities. Now we should basically already have our result, so we can build the application by going over to the console and building it, and then we should already have close to a playable game. So we started, and we see we can now, oh, okay, so basically we forgot one thing. We need to check that we only call this if the player has actually clicked, otherwise I don't need to click. So we only need to call this function here if the player actually clicked, and then we do the same. We recompile, and then we see we have here the choice where to click, and we can already click the different ones, and now I have the line. So even if I continue clicking here, nothing happens because the game is already over. But we also want now to indicate that the game is over. So depending on the game state, we will put the winner in a different color, and so it's immediately clear that the game has ended. So what we basically do here is whenever we draw some crosses and the winner is basically the cross, then we will change the color of these crosses, and we will do the same for the circles that we draw here, that we also draw them in a different color. So let's recompile and see what happens. So we can again hover, and here we can click, and as soon as there is a winner, we will see that the winning crosses will be marked in this very, very dark red, but you can choose any color you want. You can keep on playing if you want to. Can always start a new game. You could also introduce here some buttons, basically to reset the game state. So every time the game is over, that there actually is the game resetted. You can change the colors, you can change the layout of the game. But in theory, the game is complete. And basically with the framework that you have here, the complete Tictactoe game is basically written in not more than 200 lines of code. Actually, it is more, it's 203 lines of code, so sorry about that. But you see, you already get a pretty good result by not having that much code, and it's really straightforward to get to the result. Thank you for watching the series. I hope you had some fun along the way and were able to follow and also learned a little bit. If you have some cool projects that either you implement or that you would like that I would implement, post them below in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and the most important part, enjoy coding.